So I didn't realize the Shabbat had been Jack's bar mitzvah. If I could put you on the spot for a minute, Jack, what did you feel when you heard that your Torah portion was Tatzriya Mitzora, which was about skin disease, household mold? He was up for the challenge. He was so positive. I'm so excited to hear that. The reason I ask is because on this very Shabbat in 1997, I was supposed to have had my bat mitzvah. And I say supposed to because I didn't. As many of you know, I made the decision to drop out of Hebrew school. You can now sing Hebrew school dropout in your head. I know you already are. It's really a good gag, you know? So I dropped out of Hebrew school before 6th grade. Seems kind of weird that I'm your rabbi, huh? Am I right? But I've often joked that this week's Torah portion, Tazria Mitzora, the same one I was supposed to read on a bima in Kansas City 21 years ago, was the reason I quit my bat mitzvah training, because it's so awful. After all, who would want to forever say their Torah portion, besides Jack, was the one about skin disease and household mold infestations? Not me. I was not into that. The thing is, though, that wasn't actually why I dropped out of Hebrew school. You see, most students from my Hebrew school attended the same elementary school. I was the outlier. They rode in the same carpools, they played on the same sports teams, they lived in the same neighborhoods. I, on the other hand, did not. Besides my sister, I was the only Jewish kid in my school, which I actually really liked. I didn't mind being the token Jew. I didn't mind being able to teach people about my faith. They were always really interested. I got to teach people about Hanukkah and Purim and Passover. I might have passed over some of the holidays that seemed less fun, but I really got to teach about Judaism to my classmates. But coming to Hebrew school on a weekday, which meant that all of my classmates had been at school together the whole day, felt like I was intruding into their shared space of what the previous 7 hours of their day had been like. They would discuss what had happened on the playground that morning during recess, or something funny or annoying that their teacher had said in class that day, or they would talk about whatever assignment they had coming up. At my synagogue, the place where I shared the same beliefs and traditions as all of my peers, I felt different from everyone. I did not have the shared daily experience they had together. I felt like a stranger. And at the wise age of 11, I solved the discomfort by dropping out of Hebrew school. I was done. So this is just one vignette in my life. But I want you to take just a moment, and I won't ask you to share. I know you often know that I like to hear things from you, which I do, but I won't ask you to share this one. I want you to take just a moment and think of a time in your own life where you felt utterly different or alone or like an outsider. What did that feel like? I want you to take one more moment and think about what it was or who it was that changed that feeling for you. What got you out of that moment where you felt so very other, so very isolated, that brought you to this moment? I can tell you what happened for me. I was very fortunate to have a rabbi who noticed that I was withdrawing from my community, even at the age of 11. And he took it upon himself to have conversations with me every time I was at temple, whether it was for services. I did still come to Sunday school and Sunday morning. I just didn't go to Hebrew school anymore. But he made a point of reaching out to me. He also convinced my parents to send me to a month of Jewish summer camp, which how many out there have gone to Jewish summer camp? Not just the kids. I know there's a bunch of adults out there too. So Jewish summer camp brought me back to feeling like Jewish community was also, for me, it also wasn't a super hard sell for my parents to say, do you want to send your teenage daughter or preteen away for a month? My parents said yes. But he made sure that I knew I had a place within the Jewish community. He wanted to help me find where it was and where I would feel comfortable. And thank God he did, because I would say because of that, I ended up becoming a rabbi, which ended up with me being here. So I definitely thank God for that. His name is Rabbi Joshua Taub. If you'd like to send him a Facebook message later, thank him. I am very grateful for him. But I didn't really understand until now that this story, my story, something that you probably have heard many times about me dropping out of Hebrew school, but then obviously I came back because I'm here now, is eerily similar to what this week's Torah portion teaches us. And I hadn't really thought of it in this context. And again, this Torah portion was the one I was assigned to read from in 1997. Parshat Tazria Mitzorah outlines the process of purifying members of the Israelite community who are affected with the strange skin disease. I know. I didn't want to read it in Hebrew either. But the Mitzorah, the one who is afflicted with the illness, is sent outside the Israelite camp. So they're in the desert, they have this camp, there's a wall to their camp, a protective area, and the person who has this illness is sent to the outside. They are sent out to be very vulnerable, to the outskirts of the community while they are in the healing process. The most important message, however, in this portion, I would argue, is found in the process of their re-entry back into the community once their healing has taken place. It begins when the priest exits the camp to meet the Mitzorah, the afflicted one. Once the priest visually examined the person and declared them to be healed, they do a ritual that allows re-entrance into the community, one that is identical to the ritual that ordains the priest to God, which, again, as a rabbi, I'm really glad that ordination has changed. This had something to do with, like, ram's blood, and I can tell you at my ordination, I don't know about yours, but we didn't have any ram's blood. No, we got blessings, though. It was wonderful. But the same ritual that was designated only for the priest is also the same ritual that is designated to bring those who had been sick back into the community. These two populations are the only groups that experience this ritual. The most pure, the priest, and the least pure, the Mitzorah, the afflicted one. The priest's role is to bring them back, to make them feel as they are so much part of their community, that they are as holy as priests. The Mitzorah is welcomed back into the community with deep compassion and sincere concern from a community leader. The only way this could happen, however, the only way that they were able to be welcomed back into the community was for the priest to actually go out, physically walk outside of the camp and meet them to be able to bring them back in. It took someone telling them face to face, "I'm sorry you have been on the outside. I would like to bring you back in." While this Torah portion may be specifically speaking of people who are struck with a physical ailment, we too often see people who are on the outskirts of our community. Unfortunately, such situations are a given in our lives, either that we experience ourselves or that we see people around us experience. We will now and then find ourselves witnessing someone feeling alone or isolated. It may have even been the result, God forbid, of something we personally did or said that distanced them from our community, causing them to feel as though they had been sent outside of our camp to wait until they are welcomed back in. They may feel as though they are on the outside looking in on what used to feel like such a safe and sacred place for them, or what they thought could be. A moment ago, I asked you to think about a time when you felt other. Now I want you to think about a time when either you made someone else feel other, or you noticed someone else feeling on the outside. What did you do? What did you think about doing? What do you wish you had done? Just as each of us could recall an interaction that made us question whether or not we belong to a particular group or in a particular place, each of us also has memories of a rabbi, a parent, a teacher, a mentor, a friend, a peer, who influenced us so strongly and so positively that there was no doubt left in our minds that we were exactly where we needed to be. This portion reminds us that despite someone feeling pushed away outside of any group, we can also be like the priests. We can be the ones who make them feel as though they were ready to come back to the community. Someone to say, "I notice you, I see you, you belong here." Our words, of course, have the power to hurt, and of course, they also have the power to heal, to strengthen, and even to completely change the course of a person's life. Thank God my rabbi recognized that I had felt pushed out, and thank God he invited me back in. Parshat Mitzorah forces us to look at the less than pleasant side of life, whether it be literally diseases mentioned in the portion, like scaly skin ailments, or the reminder that we isolate each other all too often. It's not pretty for us to look at that either. I believe that the process of purifying the Metzora, the afflicted one, has an additional message for us. It reminds us that healing is possible. And we can be the agents that create this change, that create this healing. Either through teshuva, repentance, when we've done something to contribute to someone else's pain, or just through taking responsibility on making someone feel welcome, taking that responsibility on ourselves and telling them that we see them and they belong here. So we're in Leviticus, but back in Exodus, chapter 19, verse 6, just before God reveals the 10 Commandments to the people, the Israelites are told by God, "You will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." Not just the priestly class, every single Israelite was given this charge. In Judaism, we are all seen as having equal power and equal ability to do good. Just because we have the title of rabbi doesn't make us special. Don't tell the others. But really, Judaism is unique in saying that it's not just, you can speak to God yourself. You don't need us to do that for you. You can welcome in the stranger. You don't need us to do that for you. You are also priests. You are also rabbis. But each of us can be these priests. No matter our age or stage in life, we can create community, true community, in which one person can pull someone else back in from the margin. A community where those who are on the edges are brought back to the center. Before Micha Mochai shared a short story about how the Red Sea split when the Israelites were there, waiting. Yes, Nachshon took that first step. But according to the rabbis, in an alternate story, it took everyone stepping in together, everyone saying, we're in this together, for the seas to actually part. And we still do that all of the time. We need to look out for those who are on the outskirts of our community, whatever the reason may be. But we hope that we can be that kingdom of priests and that we can be that holy nation and keep our community together and make sure that everyone knows they are welcome. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will, and Shabbat Shalom.